You think you know your own name? Whisper it. Go on. Say it in the dark. Feels solid, don't it? Like a stone in your hand. But I've been where the waves can wear a name down to dust. I've sailed where the fog can steal it right from your lungs and give you a new one. One written in salt and rust and ruin. They say every sailor has one foot in the water and the other in the grave. But me, the sea took both my feet and my eye, and the man I used to be. This ain't a story of treasure. Not the kind that glitters anyway. This is a story of a trade. A warning etched in the bones of a fool who thought he could chart the abyss and not have it stare back. Before she took my eye, before this cursed compass whispered my name, I was Elias Thorne, a captain, aye, but of a different sort. I was a man who believed every legend had a price, and every myth was just a map to a prize someone else was too scared to claim. My ship was the Stargazer, and she was as proud and as arrogant as I was. My crew, good men all, trusted my charts. They trusted my ambition. That was their first mistake. I'd heard whispers in ports from here to the sun-bleached south. Whispers of the hollow reefs. A place that didn't appear on any proper chart. A ship-eater, a maze of black coral that guarded a secret sky. A place where the stars were wrong. And in that wrongness, they said, was a power, a prize for the first man bold enough to sail by their alien light. I was that man. I was that bold. And I made a mistake no map could ever forgive. We sailed for 3 weeks, leaving the known currents behind. The sea began to change. The vibrant blue bled into a sullen, bruised purple. The gulls, they stopped following us, smart birds. My first mate, a good man named Cillian with eyes the color of a summer sky, he grew quiet. The crew started seeing things, shapes in the waves that moved too fast, too purposefully. The water feels heavy, Captain, Cillian told me one evening, the sun setting in a sickly green smear on the horizon, like it's waiting. I laughed it off. It's waiting for us to claim our glory, man, I said, clapping him on the shoulder. But my hand was cold. The air was growing colder. The stars at night, they were shifting. Familiar constellations grew twisted, and new ones, sharp and cruel, pricked the darkness. We were navigating by a sky no one had ever seen, and I felt a thrill, a venomous pride, snake its way round my heart. Then we saw it. A wall of mist, thick as bone, silent as a shroud, the entrance to the hollow reefs. Sailing into that fog was like being swallowed whole. The world vanished. No sun, no sky, no horizon, just the gray clinging damp and the black water beside us. The great sails of the Stargazer hung limp. We were drifting. My compass, a fine brass instrument that had never failed me, began to spin like a drunken dancer, useless. The men spoke in whispers. Every creak of the hull sounded like a footstep. Every drip of condensation sounded like a whisper just behind you. The reefs weren't just rock. They were spires of obsidian black coral that rose from the depths like skeletal fingers, close enough to scrape against our hull. The sound, a long, slow screep of stone against wood. It was the sound of a coffin nail being drawn. We were in the maze for 2 days, or was it 3? Time, like the tide, had no meaning in that place. We were lost. The pride in my gut had curdled into a cold, hard knot of fear. I stood at the prow, staring into the endless gray, my authority as captain, nothing more than a ghost. And then the whispers started for real. Not the wind, not the water. They were inside the fog. The voices of sailors, long drowned. They called out the names of my crew, one by one. A young lad from the Orkneys, Finn, swore he heard his mother calling him from over the side. We had to pull him back from the rail. his eyes wide with a terror I'd never seen. That's when the storm hit. It didn't roll in, it rose up. The still water convulsed, heaving upwards. The fog didn't part. It tore open to reveal a sky the color of a fresh wound, lit by flashes of phosphorescent green lightning. This was no storm. This was a living thing, a hungry thing. The wind didn't howl. It screamed. It screamed our names back at us. The rain fell like needles. Waves, black and massive, didn't just crash against the stargazer. They clawed at it. I saw a wave rise up in the shape of a grasping hand, and it tore the main mast from the deck as if it were a rotten twig. Men were screaming, washed overboard into the churning Black Sea. I was shouting orders that were stolen from my mouth by the gale. I saw Cillian, my first mate, his face a mask of horror pointing at something behind me. I turned, and a sheet of green lightning illuminated the sky. In that flash, I saw it. The storm had an eye, and in its center wasn't calm, but a swirling vortex of those alien stars I had so coveted. They were beautiful, and they were devouring us. A length of snapped rigging, thick as my arm and heavy with seawater, whipped through the air. I tried to turn, but there was no time. It caught me across the face. The world exploded in a starburst of white-hot agony. I remember the feeling of warm blood pouring down my face, the deck tilting impossibly beneath my feet, and the final guttural scream of the stargazer as the sea pulled her under. Then, silence. A silence more profound, more terrifying than the storm itself. I was in the water, clinging to a splintered piece of my own hubris, my ship, my crew, my life. All gone. My left eye was a void of searing pain. I floated in the dead calm heart of the reefs, the water unnaturally still, and above me, the sky was clear, filled with those terrible, beautiful, wrong stars I had chased. I had found them, and in return they had taken everything. I screamed until my throat was raw, but the only thing that answered was the cold, lapping water. Elias Thorne was adrift, broken, and utterly, completely alone. I was already a ghost. I just hadn't realized it yet. I don't know how long I drifted. Hours, a lifetime. Hope is a light, and mine had been extinguished. I was waiting for the cold to take me, for the sea to finish its meal. And then I saw it. Bobbing in the water, just beyond my reach, was something that wasn't wreckage. It glinted with a soft, internal light against the alien starlight. I paddled towards it, my movements slow, my body broken. It was a compass, but like none I had ever seen. The casing was brass, aye, but green with an age that felt ancient, and it was set into a frame of what I knew instinctively was bone. Polished, human bone. There were carvings on it, symbols that seemed to shift and writhe at the edge of my vision. I reached out a trembling hand and pulled it from the water. It wasn't cold. It was warm, as if it held a fading heartbeat within it. I held it in my palm, my blood and the seawater mingling on its surface. The needle wasn't brass or steel. It was a shard of obsidian floating in a liquid that was dark and thick like ink. And it wasn't pointing north. It wasn't spinning. The needle swung slowly, deliberately, until it pointed directly at my chest, at my heart. The moment it settled, a voice entered my head. Not a sound, no. It was a feeling, a thought that wasn't my own. It was the collective whisper of every soul the sea had ever claimed in this place. The sailors, the pirates, the fools like me, their stories, their fears, their final moments. They flooded into me. I felt their terror. I saw their drowned faces, the compass. It wasn't a tool to find direction. It was an anchor for their tales, for their dread, and it offered me a choice. Fade into the cold, a forgotten man named Elias Thorne, or take up the burden, become the vessel, become the voice for the voiceless. Let the sea's memory flow through me. The price, my name, my past, myself. I would no longer be a man, but a logbook, a cursed custodian of all the stories the sea refuses to forget. The pain in my eye socket vanished, replaced by a cold, hollow clarity. I looked at the compass, this artifact of brass and bone. My new heart. That night, in the silent heart of the hollow reefs, beneath a sky of dead stars, Elias Thorne died, and Captain Dreadwake rose from the water to take his place. I wasn't saved. Not in any way a living man would understand it. I was repurposed. The sea spat me out onto a desolate shore days later, this compass clutched in my hand. I don't know how I found a ship. I don't know how I learned to walk the world again. I only know that I serve a new master now. Not greed, not pride, but memory. This compass doesn't point north. It doesn't point me home. It points to the dread. It trembles when a story is ready to surface. A story that needs to be told lest it fester in the deep. And the very first tale it pointed to was my own. So now you know. You know how the name Elias Thorne was scoured from the Book of the Living, and my new one was carved upon its cover. Every log I share, every tale I tell, is a debt I am paying, a piece of the eternal curse I carry. So, ye wanted to hear my tales? Well, you've heard the beginning, and there's no jumping ship now. You've listened true. Tie your name to the mast. Swear to listen. Mark the anchor symbol below. A single symbol binds you to the crew and to the tide. One symbol, one oath. Let it drift where the tide dares. The sea doesn't forget. And now, neither will you.